sweet, sweet America, yes. God shed his grace on thee. Yes, he did. And he crowned my good with brotherhood. Yeah, 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 yeah. From sea, yeah, to shining sea. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hi, I'm Kip Hawley, and thank you for joining us on this reflection on 9/11. We remember the events of 6 years ago today, 9/11/01, and everything that means to us at TSA and as Americans. We also reflect on 5 years ago. At about this time in 2002, airports around the country were bringing TSA to life. And that's what this broadcast is, the stories of that shared experience. The stories of each other represent who TSA is today, and they are moving and they are inspiring.
The morning of 9/11, while sometimes seems like a long time ago, there are times it seems like it was just yesterday. But I think the one thing that will always remain the same is we'll all remember where we were and what we were doing on the morning of September 11, 2001.
I was working at JFK on September 11th, and I remember driving in that day thinking what a beautiful day it was. Would have been a perfect day for mental health. I got into the office early, and a colleague of mine came in as his office faced the New York City skyline, and he said to me, "Diane, I think the Trade Center is on fire."
So making my way up to the plaza, it was as if the whole place was just on fire. The only thing I can liken it to is a battlefield. Everything was on fire. There was smoke, there was dust, debris was falling everywhere.
September 11, I was involved with that. By that time, I was active duty with the New York Army National Guard at 1st Battalion, 69th Infantry, located at 68 Lexington Armory. Now, back then, the first day I was traveling, going to work. About 8:30, I got to my office, in which I received some phone calls indicated that to activate my unit because there was some kind of attack. That's included was my company commander who called me, indicating that we're going to be on alert. The next day, said about 8 o'clock in the morning, we be activated and moved to ground zero. We was the first unit to be at ground zero.
I was living and working here as a Pentagon police officer, and the morning of September 11th, I woke to a phone call from a friend in Chicago asking if I was all right. I didn't know what was going on, and he said, well, turn on the TV. I turned on the TV and saw the World Trade Centers, and then I also saw the Pentagon. As soon as I saw the Pentagon, I just grabbed my uniform, grabbed my equipment, and at the time I was seeing my fiance, and I just told her, I don't know when I'll be able to talk to you. I don't know when I'll be able to see you. And ran out the door with my boots in my hand. The time I got to the Pentagon, it was just a surreal sight with smoke. Before I even could see the Pentagon, you saw the smoke coming from it. By the time I got there, I ran into A&E Drive, which is the entrance for vehicles that goes into the center court. People were running out, badly burned and badly injured. At that point, I don't think that there was, I don't remember at least any sound. I just remember, pictures of people that were injured and other people helping them out.
And I think the most frightening thing that happened at the Pittsburgh airport is when Flight 93 turned around and was heading straight for the airport. They evacuated us very quickly, and they said, just grab your keys and go home. Just go home and we will call you when it's time to come back.
I was a freshman in college, and I was actually coming from class, and I heard like people screaming like New York is on fire and stuff, and so I didn't really pay any attention, but when I went and turned on the news, that's when it hit me. And when the plane hit the Pentagon, that's what really shook me up, because my sister was stationed at the Pentagon, and I didn't hear from her. I didn't know if she was okay or not, so it was kind of scary experience.
The morning of 9/11, a colleague and I, who worked for a law enforcement training agency, she now works for TSA as well, were driving very early in the morning from Gaithersburg, Maryland to Baltimore, where we had assembled somewhere between 35 and 40 law enforcement training executives, men and women consisting of federal law enforcement consultants as well as some local law enforcement people. One of our members in the room, one of the participants, had an occasion to go out to the lobby. And upon going out to the lobby, she quickly ran back in, and this is the phrase she used: "Oh my God, our country is under attack. New York has been bombed."
I was in an AT&T network management center outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We saw the humanity in the buildings, and then the buildings were gone.
It wasn't until I went to Chief Turner's office that I realized, after seeing the first images of that day, what was really transpiring. And the gravity of the situation struck me. Then the next plane hit, and the next plane hit. And I remember thinking at that very moment that there wouldn't be anyone in the nation that didn't personally know somebody who perished that day or whose life was affected by that day. 15 minutes later, my father called me at my office and informed me that we had had 4 family members on American Airlines Flight 77 that had struck the Pentagon.
It was a pretty profound thing, though, because later that day I found out that a friend of mine, John O'Neill, who was working for the FBI, was in the World Trade Center when it hit. It was his first day at work there, but I'd worked with John many times. And then another friend of mine was briefing a general officer in the Pentagon where the plane slammed into the building.
As we approached the doors on the VC Street side of the Trade Center, debris had already begun to hit the pavement, and it was like I was trying to negotiate this car between pieces of metal and whatever else was falling to the ground. As a matter of fact, a piece hit the hood of the car, and I said, "This ain't good. We need to be someplace else." But as I was moving the car from where I thought would be safer, superintendent jumped out of the car, ran into the building, and little did I know, little did we all know, that would be the last time I would see him or we would hear from him again. He was lost in the Trade Center, and to this day, we have not found any remains of the director.
We were just trying to get out the city, but it was very hard. The car could only take you so far. The bridges were closed. So we walked and we walked. People were crying. People were covered in soot. Finally, when I did reach home, I found out that my niece got caught in the mess of the trains because of the accident. And thank God she's okay. But our friend didn't make it.
My father died from a terrorist bomb on September 11th, 1985. So when 9/11/01 came around, I knew firsthand what it was like to lose someone to a terrorist attack. Watching all the children who knew that they were not going to have a parent come home that night was something that was very near and dear to me, and something that I recognized was not going to go away in American society. I am very humbled and very appreciative for the work that's done by TSOs right now, because I know that these folks have committed their life's work to preventing an act which has impacted me since I was 9 years old.
The day after 9/11, I was still in denial about what happened, so I went to work. And I work in the city, and as you know, the city never sleeps, and it's never empty. But that day, it was empty. It was like echoes in the streets, no cars, no cabs. It was like a movie from a world disaster, and paper was flying around, and that's when it hit me what just happened. And I cried uncontrollably, and I became indignant. And that's when I decided I wanted to do something, because I was never the same after that. And that was one of the main reasons I joined TSA.
I still was very sensitive about 9/11, and I really came over and left my comfort of the job I really liked, because I felt like they really needed people that had worked in the industry or the area of aviation to come and try to build a new place.
I knew that after September 11th, our government had a long way to go, and we needed to create a new agency to make sure that the tragedy of September 11th never happened again. I felt compelled to be part of that monumental task.
I wanted to have a job that had a purpose, and I wanted to take a part in regaining America's freedom, and to me it was working for the federal government and with TSA. And I love what I do, and I wouldn't do anything else.
Actually, I came to TSA as a fluke, actually. My son applied, and he had a little car trouble, so I went to pick him up. And since I got a lot of security background with the store also, I was listening to the orientation. I was interested. I was like, okay, you know, let's see what to do with this. And we both applied. And I read more about it, and I'm like, great, you know, this is something I would want to do. It's not military. I tried to get into military as a kid, didn't work out. But it was something that was perhaps had a chance to do something as to for my country that I adore and I love. So we both applied at the same time. Apparently, unfortunate for him, he didn't make it. I did.
The impact that it had on many, many people, myself included, I just said to myself, whatever I can do, big or small, I was going to do something. And that is what drew me to TSA.
When the website hit, I applied online, and I put in my papers for an early retirement from AT&T.
I also recruited my niece, so now my niece and I, we actually work together side by side. And we keep our friend's memory alive every day as we do a diligent job.
Training at our airports was going to be taken over by the federal government, and how we would need to train people to do security in this country differently. I had no idea what that meant, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it.
I remember having a conversation with my 11-year-old son, and he was, of course, after coming home from school and hearing nothing but that in school, scared, questioning things, worried, things, not unreasonable questions. Were they going to impact us? Even in Milwaukee, were terrorists, you know, going to impact the whole country? He was at an age that his dad was the smartest, biggest, toughest guy on the planet. And I remember explaining to him about how the best people in the world will stop this, and that this type of evil will not be allowed to go on.
A reporter who was on West Street and came up to me, and of course with the microphone, you know, asked me what was going on. We did the best we could to tell him what we knew. And I remember him saying to me, what makes this emergency or this incident any different than others you've been at? And I remember telling him that this time it was personal, and to this day it's still personal.
Well, Washington Dulles was one of the airports that the planes did leave out of. Almost all our training, we constantly remind our employees that we don't want that to happen again, and we always have that in the back of our minds. We don't want to see that happen again.
Every passenger we screen, every bag we screen, it determines the safety of the traveling public.
I have a picture on my wall that I brought with me from FAA, It's the flag that was painted on the fuselage from the United Flight 93 aircraft that went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I keep it on my wall right in front of my line of sight so that I can look at it every day and remember why I'm here.
And it was a couple of weeks ago, some random passengers were leaving our checkpoint up at Reagan National, and a passenger shouted to the officers, "We're glad you're here." And then immediately in that area, all the passengers started clapping. And it's one of those things that I really hope those are the stories that need to get out more, because the majority of passengers we see every single day really are appreciative of the efforts that the officers do, and that story really struck me, and I hope we see more like that around the country.
I look at my daughter who's still in the Air Force. I kind of feel she and I are fighting for the same team at this point. We're on the same team, doing different things.
Although we were all brought together because of a horrific incident, I'm glad to be a part of hoping to keep our skies safe. And I see where we were. I see where we're going, and I'm just happy to be on board and be a part of it.
We operate always at a high level. I know that the media always comes down and says threat level reduced, or threat level is going to go up. But as far as we're concerned on the floor, it remains the same, always at the highest.
As a police officer, I thought to myself, there was no possible way that I could have prevented, hijackers from hijacking an airplane and prevent, something like 9/11. Again, there's just no way a regular police officer could prevent that. And that's when I heard about the Federal Air Marshal program and said, yeah, if I became a Federal Air Marshal, I can prevent that from happening again.
And I imagine that my family could be flying out that day. And I want to be the one to make sure that this doesn't happen again, at least not on my watch.
Well, I will tell you, as a police officer, I was very proud to be a police officer. I thought I contributed a lot, made a difference. But it wasn't until I came to TSA when I saw a real pride and a dedication to mission that was second to none.
It really makes me think every day about what it is we do and the necessity for the job that we do. I'll see a family getting on and say they're going someplace for vacation, and you see a husband and a wife and their 2 kids get on, and I can't help but think of my family, knowing full well the excitement that they were feeling that time, just like that family that I see. And we sit there, and I say we collectively, I don't think that there's an air marshal that's working today does not look those people in the eye and go, it's not going to happen while I'm here. It's not going to happen.
Sweet, sweet America, yes. God shed His grace on thee. Yes, He did. And He crowned our good with brotherhood. Yeah, 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 yeah. From sea